Here we have Chig probably pre-aiming, but this clip is more about what happens to his aim when his target goes out of view. He's tracking the player up the lift accurately, but then his aim sharply moves to the right. And something like this did happen in my legit games, but it was when I was using the AR, and I'm pretty sure the AR has more aim assistance than the BR or the sniper rifle, so this type of thing is probably more common with the AR. And still, the clip from my game was a lot different than the clips from Ashes and Soldier that we've seen, where they're perfectly tracking a player vertically, and then their aim moves sharply in a different direction. Here we have Chig aiming with several short, sharp movements, and no good player tries to aim by flicking the stick a short distance.
Guys. Inhale weak. Yeah. Nice. Guys. Inhale weak. Yeah. Nice. Guys. Inhale weak. Yeah. Nice. Guys. Inhale weak. Yeah. Nice.
Here we have RobberB with wonky aim, and there's just something about the way he's going on target, off target that isn't natural. Here we have RobberB with a weird movement that happens to coincide with the player's location. Here we have RobberB aiming with pretty short, sharp movements.
B-cut's going our courtyard. He's our A-court. Our A-court got a shot. There B-cut. B-cut's going our courtyard. He's our A-court. Our A-court got a shot. There B-cut. B-cut's going our courtyard. He's our A-court. Our A-court got a shot. There B-cut. B-cut's going our courtyard. He's our A-court. Our A-court got a shot.
Here we have RobberB possibly snapping to a player through a wall. There is a dropped frame during this snap which makes it look sharper, but when you couple the snap with the fine adjustment after the snap, it's still suspicious.
She said, last guy's victory. A-mace, trick shot, and the base. She said, last guy's victory. A-mace, trick shot, and the base. She said, last guy's victory. A-mace, trick shot, and the base. She said, last guy's victory. A-mace, trick shot, and the base.
And then immediately after that, we see that there might have been a player in that exact spot. The acceleration in his aim is also a little off.
Still A triangle, still. To the right. Still A triangle, still. To the right. Still A triangle, still. To the right.
Here we have RobberB probably pre-aiming, and after he does that, he makes a second movement to clear the triangle, but he just saw this player was there, and with how short his first movement was, and that he moves forward into the triangle at the same time, in my opinion that doesn't seem consistent with expecting there to be a player there, but at the same time he seems to expect that, and he probably should have since this clip is consecutive to the previous one, so it's like target confusion.
Still A triangle, still. To the right. To the revert. 135. I got both. Fire back A. Still A triangle, still. To the right. To the revert. 135. I got both. Fire back. Still A triangle, still. To the right. To the revert. 135. I got both. Fire back. Still A triangle, still. To the right. To the revert. 135. I got both.
This clip might just be RobberB over twitching, but it's weird so I included it.
Fire back A box. A box, A box, A box. Fire back A box. A box, A box, A box. Fire back A box. A box, A box, A box. Fire back A box. A box, A box, A box.
Here we have RobberB with sharp wonky aim.
Top A, top A, both weak. Shit, both weak. Let's get one shot. Soldier should be being at. Top A, top A. Top A, both weak. Shit, both weak. Let's get one shot. Soldier should be being at. Top A, top A. Top A, both weak. Shit, both weak. Let's get one shot. Soldier should be being at. Top A, top A. Top A, both weak. Shit, both weak. Let's get one shot. Soldier should be being.
Here we have RobberB with vertical chop.
You got Jeff. I'll serve it up. Back up. You got Jeff. I'll serve it up. Back up. You got Jeff. I'll serve it up. Back up. You got Jeff. I'll serve it up. Back up.
Here we have RobberB with a ping-ponging movement, and Chig's player model may be freezing again here.
Yeah, they're not. Our flag, don't shot, Chig. Yeah, they're not. Our flag, don't shot, Chig. Yeah, they're not.
When we first see Chig here, he doesn't seem to be moving at all. And then you can see RobberB's aim do something like this. And not only is this similar to movements we've seen previously, it doesn't have the proper acceleration in my games, There were a couple collections of fast movements that included rounded movements, but they were a lot different than this. We saw one that was something like this. And there was one like this. So in the first case, it wasn't at one speed, and you could see the individual movements. It wasn't one continuous movement. And in the second case, that's just me missing and being out of control. And there's just something oddly controlled about this. And it's weird that both of these movements are flat, because at first he's probably getting shot from up high, and then after that his aim is pretty low, but it's like he's not trying to make vertical adjustments.
Yeah, they're not.
Our flag is going up, six.
Yeah, they're not.
Our flag is going up, six.
Yeah, they're not.
Our flag is going up, six.
Yeah, they're not.
Our flag is going up, six.
Yeah, they're not.
Our flag is going up, six.
Here we have RobberB with some wonky aim and a little stutter.
One bomb middle.
Yeah, he chased me.
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 Here we have Nocturnal, possibly extra shooting.
Beats is a one shot. He's a one shot. Watch out, be basement. Watch out, be basement. Wall shit. Guide. Beats is a one shot. He's a one shot. Watch out, be basement. Watch out, be basement. Wall shit. Guide. Beats is a one shot. He's a one shot. Watch out, be basement. Watch out, be basement. Wall shit. Guide. Beats is a one shot. He's a one shot. Watch out, be basement. Watch out, be basement. Wall shit. Guide.
Here we have Nocturnal spawning in, moving his aim towards the player, and players don't usually move their aim when they're spawning in.
I need help. Top down. I need help. Top. I need help. Top. I need help.
Here we have Nocturnal with a nearly textbook aiming stab.
The BC two shots. The BC two shots. The BC two shots. The BC two shots.
Here we have Nocturnal with something close to a spiral windmill. Windmills are pretty common, but they're usually circular or elliptical. They don't usually spiral and curl in on themselves. This one is borderline and it doesn't quite curl in on itself, but it's close and I'm not sure I've ever seen a spiral in legit gameplay.
He's bomb middle. Two down. Top
I'll
middle.
need to drop one play.
He's bomb middle. Two down. Top
I'll
middle.
need to drop one play.
He's bomb middle. Two down. Top
I'll
middle.
need to drop one play.
He's bomb middle. Two down. Top
I'll
middle.
need to drop one play.
Here we have Nocturnal's aim accelerating rapidly when this player dies by a nade, and this movement is pretty textbook.
Play.
on flag 2. Shake one shot.
Play.
Grenades on flag 2. Shake one shot.
Play.
Grenades on
Here we have Nocturnal with the ping-ponging movement and a spiral.
Nice shot. One shot. Nice shot. One shot. Nice shot. One shot. Nice shot.
Here you can see him do something like this. Obviously this is pretty similar to previous movements we've seen. There does appear to be some acceleration, but the speed is pretty fast and pretty consistent. But the spiral is what's most suspicious. You really don't see these in legit gameplay.
Nice shot. One shot. Nice shot. One shot.
Here we have Snakebite making an odd series of loops.
Two on two. There's one.
He's no shield, check.
Where?
They're A-box.
Two on two. There's one.
He's no shield, check.
Where?
They're A-box.
Two on two. There's one.
Here he does something like this.
They're A-box.
Two on two. There's one.
He's no shield, check.
Where?
They're A-box.
Two on two. There's one.
He's no shield, check.
Where?
They're A-box.
Here we have Snakebite with stuttering aim, and after the first stutter he off-tracks the second player in a way that seems kind of random.
No, they're A cut. They're A cut. Watch guys already underground. No, they're A cut. They're A cut. Watch guys already underground. No, they're A cut. They're A cut.
You can see here that he stabs and misses this player, and just sort of ends up aiming at the second player.
Watch guys already underground. No, they're A cut. They're A cut. Watch guys already underground. No, they're A cut. They're A cut. Watch guys already underground.
Here we have Snakebite with a little vertical chopping.
A3, go
Here we have Ghost Edamame with several sharp movements.
Watch this. Lift it back to their base. Watch this. Watch this. Lift it back to their base. Watch this. Watch this. Lift it back to their base. Watch this. Watch this. Lift it back to their base.
Here we have Ghost Edamame trying to shoot a player through the floor, and you can tell that's probably what's happening here because of how sharp the movement is. If this were him just randomly shooting, chances are pretty low that he'd be snapping sharply to that player's probable location at the same time. Here we have Ghost Edamame with a weird little back and forth movement. Here we have Ghost Edamame with what appears to be a triggerbot activation.
At their flag, sniper.
Do they have sniper?
I don't know. L3.
Yeah, go, run it.
L3.
L3.
At their flag, sniper.
Do they have sniper?
I don't know. L3.
Yeah, go, run it.
L3. L3. At their flag, sniper.
Do they have sniper?
I don't know. L3.
Yeah, go, run it.
After the shot, you can see the player here. So it seems like we should have been able to see that player before the shot. This actually might be that player, but this clip would still be weird, and that would probably mean this clip is Ghost Edamame's triggerbot activating on the second player while his aim snaps to the first player.
Do they have sniper?
I don't know. L3.
Yeah, go, run it.
L3. L3. At their flag, sniper.
Do they have sniper?
I don't know. L3.
Yeah, go, run it.
L3. At their flag, sniper.
Do they have sniper?
I don't know. L3.
Yeah, go, run it.
L3.
Here we have Ghost Edamame with what appears to be a sharp stutter in his aim. We would actually need a clearer video than this to know if it's bad or not, because it's not really clear what his aim is doing, and sometimes the shield flicker can make aim appear like it's stuttering when it's not. But if we had a clearer video, that would be a textbook aimbot grab. Here we have nated pre-aiming.
L3 sniping looks like.
L3
sniping looks like.
L3
L3 sniping looks like.
L3
L3 sniping looks like.
Here we have nated moving his aim the wrong direction, and there's just something about the way this happens that means it was probably related to the second player showing up, and something like this is quickly becoming a textbook movement on MCC, where these players are playing an entire game practically without missing a shot, except when there's two targets on screen, as if that should cause you to shoot in between the players for some reason. Here we have nated with a movement that's pretty fast for how small it is. I think a windmill of this speed would usually be larger than this. Here we have nated with some sharp movements. Here we have nated with more sharp movements.
Right pocket, right now, weak. Gotta kill him. Ace to the left.
Nice job. They press 2.
Right pocket, right now, weak. Gotta kill him. Ace to the left.
Nice job. They press 2.
Right pocket, right now, weak. Gotta kill him. Ace to the left.
Nice job. They press 2.
Right pocket, right now, weak. Gotta kill him. Ace to the left.
Nice job. They press 2.
Here we have Defy with a sharp back and forth.
Coming street.
On bridge, guys, on bridge. 47.
Coming street.
On bridge, guys, on bridge. 47.
Coming Coming street.
On bridge, guys, on bridge. 47.
Coming street.
On bridge, guys, on bridge. 47.
Here we have Defy navigating the map with a lot of small movements, and I think the movements here are excessive. Most players are probably not going to do this with this many movements, and obviously a smooth gradual movement is optimal for turning corners. And at this point I'm sure the aimbot designers did it this way because they knew the aimbot would be pre-aiming constantly, because having a high number of movements while navigating gives the players cover for pre-aiming so often.
47.
Enables weak OBs.
Out of us.
I need one.
Watch out, I got one. 47.
Enables weak OBs.
Out of us.
I need one.
Watch out, I got one. 47.
Enables weak OBs.
Out of us.
I need one.
Watch out, I got one. 47.
Enables weak OBs.
Out of us.
I need one.
Watch out, I got one.
Here we have Defy with a slow stutter, but it's still relatively fast, and good players don't aim with tiny flicks, because it's harder to be accurate that way.
Shot caught still.
They're green.
I got
Still.
him, I got him.
Nice, that was
They're coming, two guys.
Shot caught still.
They're green.
I got him, I got him.
Nice, that was
They're coming, two.
Shot caught still.
I got him, I got him.
Nice, that was
They're coming, two.
Shot caught still.
I got him, I got him.
Nice, that was
They're coming.
Here we have T-Squared with a tiny circle approaching the size and speed that's not possible on the 360, and that he would be very unlikely to be entering in this situation.
They're coming, two guys are coming.
Sonic 45.
You burned it down.
In shooter.
They're coming, two guys are coming.
Sonic 45.
You burned it down.
In shooter.
They're coming, two guys are coming.
Sonic 45.
You burned it down.
In shooter.
They're coming, two guys are coming.
Sonic 45.
You burned it down.
In shooter.
They're coming, two guys are coming.
Sonic 45.
You burned it down.
In shooter.
Here we have T-Squared with a little zigzag on target that you don't see very often.
In shooter.
Under bridge.
Two shots. Two no B. In shooter.
Under bridge.
Two shots. Two no B. In shooter.
Under bridge.
Two shots. Two no B. In shooter.
Under bridge.
Two shots. Two no B.
Here we have T-Squared with a possible triggerbot activation.
2 on training. Ace. Honor green. Inner green. NC sword. 2 on training. Ace. Honor green. Inner green. NC sword. 2 on training. Ace. Honor green. Inner green. NC sword. 2 on training. Ace. Honor green. Inner green. NC sword.
Here we have Defy with some pretty sharp movements, and his strafe ends up matching his targets really closely.
Sniping their core, guys. I need help.
That's all, got it.
Sniping their core, guys. I need help.
That's all, got it.
Sniping their core, guys. I need help.
That's all, got it.
Sniping their core, guys. I need help.
That's all, got it.
Here we have Enable with some really sharp target switching.
That's 3 guys, we never
Okay, that's 3.
Defy.
That's 2 guys. There's 2 there. Defy's dead. That's 3 guys, we never
Okay, that's 3.
Defy.
That's 2 guys. There's 2 there. Defy's dead. That's 3 guys, we never
Okay, that's 3.
Defy.
That's 2 guys. There's 2 there. Defy's dead. That's 3 guys, we never
Okay, that's 3.
Defy.
That's 2 guys. There's 2 there. Defy's dead.
Here we have enable with some stuttering aim.
Front blue guys, front blue.
S3, it gets 2, that's it. Rokke, he's still there. He's S2, he's S2.
Front blue guys, front blue.
S3, it gets 2, that's it. Rokke, he's still there. He's S2, he's S2.
Front blue guys, front blue.
S3, it gets 2, that's it. Rokke, he's still there. He's S2, he's S2.
Front blue guys, front blue.
S3, it gets 2, that's it. Rokke, he's still there. He's S2, he's S2.
Here we have enable with a very sharp back and forth. This is pretty small and fast for the 360, but the movement is large enough that it's probably not a glitch. And again, no good player aims this way.
Walls are gates, should be one shot. Walls are gates, should be one shot. Walls are gates, should be one shot. Walls are gates, should be one shot.
Here we have Fleecesword with a possible triggerbot activation, and he has a borderline roller coaster movement.
Should be one shot. I'm pushing. Mike's gone. Mike's pushing, guys. Everyone go. Everyone go. Might be able to. Should be one shot. I'm pushing. Mike's gone. Mike's pushing, guys. Everyone go. Everyone go. Might be able to. Should be one shot. I'm pushing. Mike's gone. Mike's pushing, guys. Everyone go. Everyone go. Might be able to. Should be one shot. I'm pushing. Mike's gone. Mike's pushing, guys. Everyone go. Everyone go. Might be able to.
Here we have Fleecesword, possibly extra shooting.
Might be able to.
Green, let the camera.
Green, blue. Alright, watch. Might be able to.
Green, let the camera.
Green, blue. Alright, watch. Might be able to.
Green, let the camera.
Green, blue. Alright, watch. Might be able to.
Green, let the camera.
Green, blue. Alright, watch.
Here we have Fleecesword with a spiral and a movement that's borderline serpentine for the 360.
Yeah, so top blue. On the glass. Green, gold, white. Top gold. Yeah, so top blue. On the glass. Green, gold, white. Top gold. Yeah, so top blue.
So from here you can see him do something like this. Or maybe it's more like this. So this isn't a textbook serpentine movement, which is more like this. Where a player's aim winds back and forth several times like that. Something like a serpentine movement can happen on MCC, but it's never symmetrical, and it never has consistent speed both vertically and horizontally. But the movement in this clip is close enough that you shouldn't see it on the 360.
Yeah, so top blue. On the glass. Green, gold, white. Top gold. Yeah, so top blue. On the glass. Green, gold, white. Top gold. Yeah, so top blue. On the glass. Green, gold, white. Top gold.
Here we have Fleecesword, possibly extra shooting.
Alright, engage up, alright. Still alive. Alright, engage up, alright. Still alive. S2. Alright, engage up, alright. Still alive. S2. Alright, engage up, alright. Still alive. S2.
Here we have Fleecesword with really wonky aim because he's trying to shoot a player who has the camo, which is something that we've seen this aimbot have problems with before. It's like it's trying to replicate a player not having aim assistance, but it ends up looking silly because players don't try to snap when they have no aim assistance.
S2, high elbow. High elbow, high elbow. 2S, got camera. Do this 2S snipe, guys. Camera sniping mullet. Alright, build 2S3, guys. Fight this.
Bottom green, bottom green.
S2, high elbow. High elbow, high elbow. 2S, got camera. Do this 2S snipe, guys. Camera sniping mullet. Alright, build 2S3, guys. Fight this.
Bottom green, bottom green.
S2, high elbow. High elbow, high elbow. 2S, got camera. Do this 2S snipe, guys. Camera sniping mullet. Alright, build 2S3, guys. Fight this.
Bottom green, bottom green.
S2, high elbow. High elbow, high elbow. 2S, got camera. Do this 2S snipe, guys. Camera sniping mullet. Alright, build 2S3, guys. Fight this.
Bottom green, bottom green.
Here we have Fleecesword shooting for no reason.
Bottom green, bottom green. Let's go. Let's go green. Look green. Just keep on.
Alright, bottom green, bottom green. I'm gonna grab it. I'm gonna grab it.
Global, guys. Global. Jump on there. Bottom green, bottom green. Let's go. Let's go green. Look green. Just keep on.
Alright, bottom green, bottom green. I'm gonna grab it. I'm gonna grab it.
Global, guys. Global. Jump on there. Bottom green, bottom green. Let's go. Let's go green. Look green. Just keep on.
Alright, bottom green, bottom green. I'm gonna grab it. I'm gonna grab it.
Global, guys. Global. Jump on there. Bottom green, bottom green. Let's go. Let's go green. Look green. Just keep on.
Alright, bottom green, bottom green. I'm gonna grab it. I'm gonna grab it.
Global, guys. Global. Jump on there.
Here we have Enable with some vertical pulsing.
Jump on there. Okay, jump on there.
S3.
Snipe in that camera.
S3.
Jump on there. Okay, jump on there.
S3.
Snipe in that camera.
S3.
Jump on there. Okay, jump on there.
S3.
Snipe in that camera.
S3.
Jump on there. Okay, jump on there.
S3.
Snipe in that camera.
S3.
Here we have Enable probably aiming at a player through a wall.
S3.
That camera. That camera. Go on, Mike.
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 Here we have Enable with 2 repeated movements, and there's a long parabolic movement which are rare on the 360.
Go, Mike.
Top green.
Blue entrance and the sniper. Top 10 minute focus. Go, Mike.
Top green.
Blue entrance and the sniper. Top 10 minute focus. Go, Mike.
So here he does something like this. And then he does it a second time. And then here we have the long parabolic movement.
Go, Mike.
Top green.
Blue entrance and the sniper. Top 10 minute focus. Go, Mike.
Top green.
Blue entrance and the sniper. Top 10 minute focus.
Here we have Enable with wonky aim. The way he aims at the first player is pretty sharp, and the way he aims at the second player is pretty awkward.
10 minute focus on him. I'm in with it.
S3 also. One shot on green, man.
I got him.
Nice.
Play ball. 10
focus on him.
I'm in with it.
S2, S2. S3 also.
One shot on green, man.
I got him,
Nice.
I got him. All right. Play ball, Aaron. Time in and focus on him.
I'm in with it.
S2, S2. S3 also.
One shot on green, man.
I got him, I
Nice.
got him. All right. Play ball, Aaron. Time in and focus on him.
I'm in with it.
S2, S2. S3 also.
One shot on green, man.
I got him, I
Nice.
got him. All right. Play ball, Aaron.
Here we have Enable with a little vertical pulsing, and he makes a weird little movement that's probably predictive of this player entering the lift.
Play ball, Aaron. Can't jump to top camo, guys. Camo. One shot at camo. 3 dead if you kill camo. Play ball, Aaron. Can't jump to top camo, guys. Camo. One shot at camo. 3 dead if you kill camo. Play ball, Aaron. Can't jump to top camo, guys. Camo. One shot at camo. 3 dead if you kill camo. Play ball, Aaron. Can't jump to top camo, guys. Camo. One shot at camo. 3 dead if you kill camo.
Here we have Enable adjusting his aim with short, fast movements, and that's not an accurate way to aim on the 360.
And top, I'm trying, and top goal. Top mid, guys, top mid, top mid. And top, I'm trying, and top goal. Top mid, guys, top mid, top mid. And top, I'm trying, and top goal. Top mid, guys, top mid, top mid. And top, I'm trying, and top goal. Top mid, guys, top mid, top mid.
Here we have Ace with a movement that I'm pretty confident can't be replicated on a 360.
Push, go, let's watch that three. Push, go, let's watch that three.
And it's the sharp zigzag on this first player.
Go, let's watch that three. Push, go, let's watch that three. Push, go, let's watch that three.
Here we have Ace with a sharp back and forth.
Ball play,
On the bed.
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 That's it for this video. These clips were taken from about 50 minutes of gameplay, so let's check out the list. The two players I'm pretty comfortable moving up after this one are RobberB and DiurnalSwindle. They're both exhibiting textbook movements, and they both had what I'm going to start calling the conveyor belt movement, and that's the one that goes like this. We've seen something like this from several different players now, and while I wasn't familiar with this movement before, I'm pretty sure it's complete nonsense. Like with one of the clips from this video, I don't see how at this point of the movement, when the player has decided to shoot a target here, I don't see how you get this movement instead of something like this, or this, or this, or even axial movements. Anything like that would be fine, but the conveyor belt movement is two even windmills connected by a horizontal line, and that just doesn't seem reasonable to me. The movements are also smooth, the acceleration doesn't seem right, and if a player's good enough to draw this shape on the 360, why can't they just go from here to here? Fake Bite is probably cheating, but his clips haven't been that bad yet. I know we saw Edamame trying to shoot at players through floors and walls. I know that's what those clips were, but I'd like to see more from him before I accuse him. Deepfry's clips weren't that bad. Tick, Faded, Lsquared, Embezzle, Fleecesword, and Disgrace we already knew were cheating. There's 4 more hours to go on this tournament. See you then.